Hey everybody, it's Nicole Miles with Miles to Go Speaking and Consulting coming to you again today for another Trauma Informed Tuesday. Today we're going to talk about being trauma informed and its relationship to productivity and why it really matters in our workplaces, in our communities, and even in our day-to-day lives to understand how to avoid re-traumatization so that we can be productive. There's actually some great brain science behind this and some amazing human history. Trauma responses aren't bad. They're what kept us alive for millennia. Imagine that you were living back, in prehistoric times, and you were hunting and gathering for your food, which would have been your primary job during the day. And the person you were with actually gets mauled and eaten by a bear, which is a terrible image, right? But this is going to set off a trauma response in your brain. Think about all the things that you would do when that happens, right? You would have all of this release of energy, adrenaline, to get you to run away. Your amygdala would light up and it would tell you, this is really bad, you have to escape. As you evolve, you get smarter. You start to learn that hearing a bear growl or seeing a bear print, this also means there could be a bear nearby, and bear means something really bad. So your body does the same thing. That amygdala lights up, you get the release of adrenaline, you get the cortisol hormones, which we now think of as the belly fat hormones. But these are all ways to protect us, to tell you you have to get away from this situation. Over time, you evolve again, and now it's when you hear the story about somebody else getting chased by a bear, your brain lights up, that amygdala lights up, you release the adrenaline, you release the cortisol, even though you don't actually need to run from the bear. And that's what's really interesting about our brains. Brains are brilliant in so many ways, but not very perceptive. And so in a trauma situation, we don't necessarily know, is this a trauma or is this a trigger inside of our brains? Brain does not know the difference between whether or not there's actually a bear or whether or not you've just heard a story about a bear, if that's been your trauma. So how does it relate to productivity? Well, when the amygdala lights up, when all those hormones get released, when the adrenaline is happening, guess what else? All of your critical thinking centers inside your brain, the problem-solving centers, all of the things that are going to help you decide what actually needs to happen, those all depress. They shut down so that you can respond to this immediate threat. Brain has told you there's an immediate threat. Imagine what happens then inside of our workplaces, inside of our communities, inside of our families, when we have someone who's experiencing a re-traumatization, right? Their brain has kicked into that trauma response. The amygdala has lit up. The adrenaline is running. The cortisol is flowing. They can't have a reasonable conversation with us, let alone try to solve the problem that is right in front of us. So I often say in trauma-informed practices, this isn't really necessarily an altruistic thing. It's great that we want to take care of people because those trauma responses over and over in your body, they're really hard on your body. They're very difficult to deal with. But even if you don't subscribe to any of that, you want productive, critically thinking, problem-solving people inside your community, inside your organizations, inside your workplace. Reducing trauma is one incredible way to do this. This is also very true inside of our school and education systems, where we need to think about the fact that children who relive this amygdala stimulation all of the time, actually their amygdalas get bigger, and the rest, their prefrontal cortexes, these other spaces, they actually shrink up. And so we have to practice these trauma-informed settings, environments, language, all of these policies that we can put into place to avoid that re-traumatization so we can heal brains, which, by the way, it turns out we can. So avoiding those traumas, subscribing to the trauma-informed pillars, it makes a huge difference. This is how we're going to take care of each other, and this is also how we're going to be our most productive. It's been great talking to you. I'll see you next week again for another Trauma-Informed Tuesday. So long.